Okay. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. This is our panelist of current college students who have recently graduated within the last year or two from North Hunterdon High School. We will start with the top of the screen with Mr. Squarsha. We'll just do a quick introduction. And then after we get done with the introductions, we'll go ahead and move forward with the questions.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Squarsha, the Director of Counseling for the district. I'd also like to thank all of the panelists here for spending their time to contribute to helping all of our seniors learn about the transition and the important things about the transition.
Thank you, Mr. Squarsha. My name is Mr. Rapp. I am one of the school counselors at North Hunterdon. I also want to thank the panelists. This is a very different year, as we all know, and a lot of things have kind of been taken away from our graduating seniors, and you taking the time right now to give them something back is very special. So thank you for your participation. Kayla, can you go, please?
Yeah, I'm Kayla Salino. I graduated last year and I just finished my freshman year at the University of Alabama.
Thank you, Kayla. Andrew Green, you are next.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Green. I also graduated last year and I finished tomorrow at the Catholic University of America.
Thank you, Andrew. Caroline?
I'm Caroline Tolentino-Lamar, and I'm currently a freshman at the University of Maryland.
Thank you. William?
Hi, I'm Will Wilson. I graduated last year from North, and I'm a freshman at Penn State right now.
Thank you. Andrew Ferrante?
My name's Andrew Ferrante. I'm a sophomore at Colgate University, so I graduated in 2018.
Thank you. Madison?
Hi, I'm Madison De Palma. I graduated North last year, and I'm a freshman at Rutgers.
Thank you. Thomas?
Hi, I'm Thomas Westra. I'm currently a sophomore at TCNJ, so I graduated North 2 years ago.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first question that we are going to go through is, what has most surprised you about college life? And then whoever would like to start, just please raise your hand. Go ahead, Andrew.
For me, honestly, just how quickly it all went by. Like I started like this semester like end of January, and it just so like surprised me like how much happened in such a little amount of time. It literally went by like in a blink.
Thank you. Kayla, you had your hand up.
For me, I think it was just how big of an adjustment it would be. I didn't think it would be like that big of a deal, but I went to school 15 hours away and it ended up being like a way bigger adjustment than I planned for. So that was a lot to work through. And I think what Andrew said, like it definitely goes by a lot faster than like a regular academic school year, like in high school. It felt so much shorter, like each semester.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andrew.
I think the biggest thing is the lack of structure in your day. So in high school, everything is very scheduled and you're kind of told what to do. And college, you kind of just have to figure it out yourself. And that comes with a lot of freedom. So.
Will.
Building off of what Andrew said, it's kind of like my biggest thing was having like just total freedom and having to build that structure for yourself and trying to figure that out and see what works for you. So that took a little bit of adjustment to kind of, fall into like a routine.
Thank you. Madison, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I didn't realize how much free time I kind of would have in my day, especially what Andrew was saying, how it's like you have to build your own schedule kind of, and it was just like learning a lot of time management and things like that, making sure you stay on top of your work.
Thank you. Caroline, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that surprised me most is how quickly like you will change as a person, even like just during your first semester of your freshman year, like you will change so much as a person and the people around you will also change so much, always in like a good way. Like they always say you like find yourself in college and you definitely start like as soon as you get there and you're living on your own and figuring out things.
Excellent. Thank you. Thomas.
Kind of similar to what other people have said, but how professors really, they do care if you succeed, but they're not going to go out of their way most of the time to make sure you're doing assignments or showing up to class or anything like that. So a lot of the responsibility of going to class and doing all your homework it's really just on you.
Thank you. Those are all excellent answers. The second question that we have is, what is the most useful skill you've learned at college? Whoever would like to go first, please raise your hand. Go ahead, Caroline.
You very, very quickly learn how to live with someone. And even if I was very lucky, my roommate and I are best friends, but like you will figure out that there are things people do that really like irk you, and you like figure out very, very quickly how to handle like a living situation, which I think is really helpful because you will most likely have roommates for a very, very long time in your life.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kayla.
I'd say for me, it was like planning wise, like when I was in high school, I literally never thought about planning anything. I was like, okay, get up and go to school every day. But then when you get to college, you have to kind of plan your day out to make it productive, where it's like, okay, I have class at these times, and then like this time you need for homework, and like this time is for like social activities. So you kind of have to like plan it out. And that was probably the best skill I learned this year.
Thank you. Andrew.
Kind of like bouncing off what Kayla said, I definitely learned how to schedule my time. It's like if I have a class like that gets out at like 11:50 and then a class at 3:40, I like to set time for like me to run to Trader Joe's or something like that. Just like it's so weird to you have to plan out just like things that you don't normally plan when you're at high school, just like stuff like that.
Thank you. Will.
Like kind of what everyone else said, time management and being able to like plan out your day and to find those little gaps in time where it would make, the most sense to go and do something. But for me, one of the things that I found, I don't know, most useful was communication, where like I would be able to talk to my professors and get the help I needed if I didn't understand anything. Or, I don't know, meeting new people and, because you meet a ton of new people when you get to college on your floor, in your classes, kind of talking to them, talking to professors for help. I think that was one of the things that helped me the most my first semester.
Thank you. Yeah, Andrew.
My answer kind of closely echoes Will's answer. I think it's all about people skills and relationship building. You're going to meet a lot of new people in college, and you really learn how to kind of introduce yourself and kind of present yourself well to those people.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to provide an answer for this question? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to build on a bunch of you talked about managing the freedom and the responsibilities. Any particular advice you have for our seniors about different tips or tools that they can use to really help with that management?
Kayla, go ahead.
Kayla? Get a planner. Like, I know I had a planner at North and I literally never used it because I was like, I don't need this thing. Get a planner and stick to it. And for me, I started like color coding like different, like if it was a sorority event or if it was my homework, different classes had different colors. Like just stay organized. The more organized you are, the easier everything is, and you're not struggling to be able to complete assignments or where you have to be.
Thank you. Andrew, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My friends are they always told me during orientation to not stretch your self out thin. It's just like do what your college experience is what you make out of it, and I think it's really great if you decide to do extracurricular activities, but if it interferes with your schoolwork, because at the end of the day, you or your parents or whoever is paying for a college tuition, so make sure you're doing well in school before you're doing other stuff like that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Madison.
So I never really was a morning person before college, and I really thought it was I loved taking advantage of the entire day when I was at school, and I just thought I got so much more done when I was getting up early, and I thought it was a lot more helpful just starting your day earlier so you're not kind of slugging around.
Thank you. Well,
To kind of build off Madison's point, for a while I used to sleep in. I was lucky my first semester, and I had a pretty late starting schedule, and I would constantly let myself sleep in till like 10, 11. And I mean, while it does sound nice, and believe me, it was nice to get to sleep, I really found that like I was a lot less productive, when I started the day later. And waking up earlier and trying to just get things done instead of procrastinating really helps you stay on track.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you're all bringing up, because many of our students right now are doing similar things. We're calling home and I'm hearing parents say, well, let me see if he's up. And I'm like, looking at my watch, like it's like 11 o'clock. So I think it's great that they're hearing from you that it really is better to utilize that morning time when things are quieter in the day than letting that time possibly get away from you. So thank you.
And starting being productive in the morning starts with managing your nightlife too, right, guys?
Next question. Are you studying / majoring in what you expected or planned to study when you were in high school? Go ahead, Caroline.
So when I was originally looking for colleges or like universities, I was originally a speech pathology. I planned on going into speech pathology. So all of my schools were only schools that had speech pathology. And then about halfway through, like literally right before I was sending in my applications, I was like, I don't want to do speech pathology. So then I switched to journalism. And then I actually, halfway through my first semester, my freshman year of college, I switched my major again into communications. And I feel like it's really important for high school seniors to know that like it is so okay if you go in undecided or you switch your major. One of my friends has switched their major 3 times and they're still graduating on time. You will find what you like very easily in college too. And I feel like there's nothing to worry about in terms of finding your little niche.
Thank you, Caroline. Would anyone else like to contribute to that particular question? Go ahead, Andrew. Andrew F.
So Colgate is a liberal arts school. So part of the liberal arts curriculum is that you have to take classes outside of your major. So I went into Colgate wanting to study math and econ, and I'm doing that right now. But in addition to that, I took a philosophy course and I loved it. So I'm also getting a philosophy minor. So this kind of liberal arts curriculum, like I would recommend that to anybody, because I kind of found my minor through that.
Thank you. Andrew G.
I went into college thinking I was gonna be a marketing major, but I knew that everyone would experiment when it came to my minor, and like having my school be located in such like a great city for political science, it like took me like a matter of days to choose that I wanted to do a political science minor, and like your major and minor don't really have to correlate if you want them to, and they kind of at my school they want you just to like get your like feet wet in like whatever capacity you can.
Thank you. Kayla and then Will.
So I always knew I wanted to do communication. I was good at like writing and English all throughout high school. So I went in with that direction, and then I got down to orientation and I declared comm studies, and I was like, okay, no, I hate this. I listened to them talk about it. So then I ended up flipping to news media, which is what I still am in now, and I absolutely love it. So I think as long as you have like some type of direction, like don't be scared to be unsure about it, because chances are you'll get to college and you'll like feel stuff out and you'll be able to like specify and say, okay, no, I like this more. And then my minors, I'm doing sports broadcasting, and then I'm double minoring in English. So it's like you're able to find other outlets that might not be your major, but like you really have a passion for something else that you can put as a minor instead.
Thank you. Will.
So I went into college intending to be information science and technology, and I still have that. But I definitely found that if I wasn't a fan of my major, I could easily switch it into something within the college that I was already in, or wherever else in the school. So definitely I was happy to like kind of have that going into school, and when I got to school I found I really did enjoy it. But there was definitely a lot of like different ways, like I could schedule a meeting with a counselor to figure something out, and kind of like what everyone else said is that you wouldn't really be put behind. So like, don't have the mentality that like the major you pick now is one that you're stuck with for the rest of your 4 years, because it's really easy to like kind of change your mind. And you could even, I think Andrew Green said this, is you can experiment with your minor. They don't have to correlate. So I think if you want to like, go in and like get your feet wet and try and figure out something, there's definitely a lot of options for you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to contribute to this particular question? Okay. The next question is, how did North Hunterdon best prepare you for college? Go ahead, Thomas.
So I think probably just the general rigor of classes. I know a lot of people that I went into some of like the intro classes that I took in college. They had trouble just with like writing and more like general concepts. I think North did a really good job of preparing me for just structuring essays and how to write big papers and stuff like that. That I think a couple of my friends had struggles with.
Thank you. Anyone else on how North prepared you? Caroline and then Kayla.
Honestly, one of the big things that I learned was that North taught me to somewhat in college always be over prepared. Like a rough draft in North is what we normally think of as like a full paper. You just have to like edit it. And I would go into classes with my like full 7-page papers, and I would exchange rough drafts with someone and they would have like a rough outline. But the pro to that is that you always have most of your work done before all the other students, because like North had just taught you like to time manage and like approach your work in a more like professional way.
Excellent. Kayla.
I definitely think that like North is a very good school, and I think we were all really fortunate to have gone through a school that has such a good rigor and a good like education structure, because I went into school with like 28 credits and I didn't have to take any of the intro courses. But I was really surprised that even into my 200s and some of the 300s level classes I started taking, like I thought I was going to struggle with some of my writing classes, and I didn't at all. And I was very surprised. So I just think it's something for all of the senior class to be fortunate for as you graduate this year, that like knowing you came from a really good school district and that you are like best prepared for whatever is in your future.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else on this question? Go ahead, Andrew.
Kind of bouncing off what Kayla said, I also didn't have to take a lot of freshman classes just because of certain credits of classes I did within my 4 years at North, especially the AP classes. Like if you took the exam, a lot of those, if you send your school your scores, that you can opt out of like several classes. It makes you can get your degree done earlier, or like class requirements done earlier than you get more classes in the end. That makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Madison.
On a little bit of a less academic note, at North, I remember I was just really close with my guidance counselor, and she was just really great. And so that kind of comfort in the guidance department just allowed me to be more comfortable going towards like advisors at Rutgers and things like that. It was just like a better like relationship builder for me.
We love hearing that. So thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next question. What would you do differently about your senior year of high school in preparation for college? Go ahead, Andrew.
I think I would have applied to fewer schools, which probably won't be a popular answer. But I think I put a little too much stress into where it was I was going to school. I'm kind of the belief that as long as you go to your respective college with like a good attitude and work ethic, you'll kind of make it work. And I think I put too much stress on the specific destination of where I was going.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a question. Oh, go ahead, Kayla. I'm sorry.
I definitely agree with what Andrew said. Like, I was so stressed about where I was going to school, and it seemed like everyone was picking and like, oh, I'm going to this school and this big state school, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even know where I want to go. So I wish I had just stressed a little less about it, because Alabama was not my first pick, and I think what Andrew said is definitely true. Like, as long as you're going with a good attitude about it, like, you can make whatever college experience you want to have, like, you can make it happen. And I think that's definitely true for me.
Thank you.
Great point that Kayla makes there. Is there any other advice? Because think about our senior class now. Some of them did not get to go and visit the schools that they've applied to and that eventually they may even attend. So do you have any advice for students who maybe didn't even get to the campus because of the situation we're in with the pandemic?
Go ahead, Will.
So definitely one thing I realized, and kind of my mentality going into college, was that wherever I go, I'll be all right. You know, my experience is what you make it. And even though that you didn't get to go to a campus or tour it, which could be the case for some, I only went to Penn State once before I ended up committing there. And the thing is that if you do end up wanting to transfer or not liking where it is, it's relatively easy, and there's a lot of different routes and methods that you can go about doing that. I mean, honestly, I don't think you should really stress out about it, because I genuinely believe that wherever you go, you'll be fine. You just need to, you know, have the right mentality and just go in and, you know, try and figure it out.
Thank you. Thomas.
So I think there's some things that you can learn about the school without going there. Obviously, like do the research online and try and find out what you can about like if they have any programs or what kind of reputation the majors that you may be interested in have, and you can find out just as much good info from that and stuff that actually might make it easier for you to understand if it's a better fit for you than actually going to the campus. Because in my experience, a lot of the campuses I went to, I didn't really have like a moment where I was like, oh, I feel at home here, or this is the place for me. So try and find places online that are appealing to you, not just in what looks cool or pretty, but what makes fit for you financially and all the other stuff.
Thank you. Madison.
I would also say, don't be afraid to reach out to like North alumni like us who are attending these schools if you have any questions or anything like that. I know I even reached out to some of the upperclassmen at Rutgers who attended North with us, if I had any questions about just getting around campus or just things like that. It was just really helpful just having somewhat of a connection with people.
Thank you. Andrew.
I was gonna say the same thing that Maddie said, like pretty much like a very good, like reliable, like source of like an experience at university or the people that physically go there. Because like when you go on campus tours, like I think they show you a bit of like what they want you to see. And if you ask like another student, you're getting like the whole like honest answer about their like personal experiences with everything. And I'm serving as an orientation advisor for the next coming school year. And my job is literally just like for right now, just to write out to like incoming students or potential students at Catholic, and just you have to be honest about your experience, but also just like you want to convince them at the same time. But like just I think students are a very reliable source of like wisdom.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to contribute to that? Okay. I'd also like to say, as one of the counselors who's getting bombarded by the colleges every day with different newsletters and things of that nature, a lot of the colleges are putting on the virtual tours, and like some of you said, they're going to show you what you want to see, but you may pick up some really good information. They may talk more specifically about a major that you're interested in, or if you're interested in studying abroad, they may cover that topic. So really conveying to our seniors who maybe haven't gotten out, and even to our juniors who are in the same boat of not being able to get out to schools right now, like definitely take advantage of those virtual tours, not for every college in the country, obviously, but at least, like your top, 8 to 6 schools, like take advantage if you can. The next question is, what is the best place you have found to study? Go ahead, Will.
This actually might sound a little crazy, but the library, honestly. I loved going there personally. It was just really quiet, and it was just a place I found like easy to study. For me, I couldn't really study in my dorm or in like the common area that I had in my dorm because I just would either see people I knew and would talk to them and just easily get distracted, or I'd just be in my room and I'd get distracted by like my TV or my PS4 or whatever. So I found that actually like getting up and going somewhere different and like sitting down at like a table in the library or like a chair, like it really allowed me to focus and just get like the work done that I needed to, other than like procrastinating and taking breaks every other couple minutes if I were to do it in my dorm. So I definitely found that like, I mean, not even just the library, just like getting up and going somewhere else that wasn't in like the space you normally are in helped me a lot to study and stay focused and kind of like separated my day out.
Thank you, Will. Kayla.
So I had my own room in my dorm, but I still didn't like choose to study in it because like Will said, you get really distracted really easily because you're just like, oh, I can do like a bunch of other things besides studying. So a lot of, at least at Alabama, we have like common areas and study rooms like on our floor that like everyone can use. So a lot of times I would just go to the study room on my floor of my dorm and I would study in there. Or for me, once I got into a sorority, you can study at the sorority house, which is what I ended up doing a lot because you can meet a lot of people that are in your classes and you can all study together. So that was the best thing for me, but I definitely do recommend not studying in your dorm because you will get distracted and everyone does it at some point. We all fall for it.
Thank you, Kayla. Anyone else? They covered some, Will and Kayla, you both covered some very good points. That's something that as a counselor, I actually do say a lot to my students is, because my students will say, well, I get currently at home, they say, well, I get my work done in my room. And my response to them will be, no, I understand that in your house that may work because your room may be the quietest place to study depending on your family setup. But very, very hard to do. I had a very similar experience to both Kayla and Will. I found that I had to go to the library or to one of the designated study areas so that I wouldn't get distracted. And there were less distractions when I was in college than there are today. So I think that's great advice. Thank you for both of that. Next question is, what's a typical day like? Go ahead, Caroline.
Personally for me, I will not wake up until I have to get up and get to class, and like I normally give myself like 30 minutes max to get ready and go to class because I like to sleep in. I can't get up early like the rest of you guys. But normally like you go to class, you'll most likely have breaks in between your classes, which is kind of nice because what I find it's really nice to do is to have that break and do that work from that class before so it doesn't all pile up at the end of the day. And then normally after class, like the great thing about college is like no matter where you are or like what you're doing besides studying or academics, like you are having so much fun. But like some of my favorite memories are like my two best friends live down the hall from me in another dorm room and we just hang out there all the time. We eat together. There's always like those like random like let's go to the 24-hour shop and you like get up at 2 in the morning and you guys all like walk down to the like common shop because you have nothing better to do. Literally any like you're always with your friends, you're always with your people, you're always doing clubs and other things like that.
Thank you. Anyone else on what your day is like? Go ahead, Andrew.
Like Caroline, I had to do an 8 a.m. class this semester, and so that required me to wake up like very, very early this semester. And I've tried to make it a part of my schedule just to wake up early enough so I can get ready and also eat breakfast to make it feel like more of like I the person just hate like waking up and going right to class. But also I try to have like all my homework done before a certain point because I save like my mornings and like early afternoons for classes, and then I reserve like the late evenings and the early evenings for like my extracurricular like activities just so I can like have time to do both.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Will.
I'd say that definitely my first semester and second semester daily days kind of varied. In the second semester, I was rushing a fraternity, so I had a lot of responsibilities to do with that. But typically, I would wake up, I'd get breakfast, I'd go to my classes. On average, I'd have maybe 2 a day. It's spaced out. For whatever reason, my scheduling kind of got messed up, so I would normally have like a 12 o'clock class and then maybe like a 3 or 4 class. So I definitely had a lot of time in the day, and I found that to be a little bit of a nuisance. But other than that, I'd kind of just hang out in my dorm with my friends. We'd go downtown, get something to eat, hang out at some of the upperclassmen we had met, their apartments, just kind of stuff like that. I mean, you really just figure it out. You do definitely spend a lot of time in your dorm, so you will find that to be your home, and you'll meet people on your floor. But other than that, I mean, it was, go have dinner with buddies at the dining commons and, maybe watch TV at night. It was definitely interesting day by day. And, I mean, you got used to it and you definitely fell into a routine, but it took a little bit.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kayla.
I'm gonna be honest because I think that's what this call is all about. I had a really terrible first semester. My schedule was all over the place. I had like a 9 a.m. on certain days, and then I had class that ran 6 to 9 p.m. on a Monday night. Like, I was just all over the place. And obviously I joined my sorority, so I was trying to work that around chapter and all this sorority stuff. And I was super homesick. So for me, it was just honestly a nightmare. So I just wanted to address it. Like, you might get a schedule that is not your cup of tea. And for me, the night classes were pretty rough. Like, I had night class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it was just like, oh my God, like, where do I eat dinner? Like, I would come home at like 9:30, and like, I had missed dinner at my sorority house. And I was like, oh my God, like, how do I handle this? It was really intense, but that's where a lot of like the planning and having a schedule and trying to work through when I have time to do what assignments, because I'm in class for like 3 hours all night. Like, how do you work that? But it was definitely rough, and it probably will happen to everyone where one semester you get a schedule and you're just like, dang, I really don't like this, but you kind of just got to rough it out.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kayla brings up a good point about just kind of balancing things. How did anyone feel like they went in, and a lot of North students do this in high school, they get super involved in so many different things. And then, when you get to college, there's even more stuff you can get involved in. Did you ever feel like you were overcommitted and you had to like cut back? Like, what advice do you have for students that want to be involved but not overcommitting themselves?
Go ahead, Kayla.
Since I felt like really overwhelmed all semester, for me, my best advice is to make sure you're like checking on yourself, and like, it sounds really dumb to think about, but like, are you eating? Like, are you getting your homework done? Are your grades okay? Like, just thinking about all the basic stuff. And if you're answering yes to all of those questions, and it's like, yes, I'm being social, I'm eating, I'm doing my work, I have good grades, like, I'm handling this well, then yes, you're handling your schedule okay. But if you're answering no to like one or more of those questions, then maybe you need to think about what activities you want to prioritize. And again, like we discussed earlier, like the most important thing is getting your degree and going to class. So you might have to cut out some activities and like figure out a way to reorganize your schedule so you're not like spreading yourself entirely too thin and you're like barely functioning.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to contribute to that? Okay. The next question that we have is talk a little bit about your campus dining experience. Madison.
So at Rutgers, there's like 4 different campuses that you have to get to by bus. And so they each have their own dining halls. Some are definitely a lot better than others. And so it was basically a big trial and error for me, just trying to figure out which places are worth going to for dinner. Unfortunately, the dining hall on my campus was not that great at all. There wasn't many healthy options. So it's just a lot of making sure that you're still maintaining a healthy diet and not just eating French fries every day kind of thing.
Thank you. Andrew and then Caroline.
I think the big thing behind this question is you have to kind of set true expectations for what you're getting. Are you going to get like your mom's home cooked meal? No, definitely not. But you're going to get something, and at Colgate at least it always tasted good. And if you didn't like what was being served that night, I mean, I always went and just had a PBJ, and just you have to kind of make what it is. And if you go in with the correct expectation, like you'll be fine.
Will.
So Penn State has like 5 different dining halls or commons they call them where you could eat, and the food was actually pretty good. It just kind of depended on like where you went that day because the menus definitely changed. But I mean, it was a lot of options, and I would always find myself going to like the big name brands. Like we had a Chick-fil-A on campus I could use my dining dollars at. I went there a lot. And I don't know. I mean, it was definitely good, and I found myself spending my meal plan really, really fast. So that's something you definitely have to watch, and obviously watch what you eat because I was getting like burgers and fries and chicken fingers and fries for like 2 meals a day for a couple weeks, and it was, I had to little kind of like go out my comfort zone and experiment a little bit, and the food was always good. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of options, and it was always pretty all right.
Excellent. Thank you. Caroline.
I was like kind of going off what Will said. You will spend your dining dollars and even your own money way faster like than you think you're going to. I somehow blew through 400 dining dollars the second semester, and we didn't even have the second half of the second semester. But my school is very like giving, I guess. We have unlimited swipes, and we half of your swipes normally go to like just going into the diner because you have nothing better to do. But like they were saying, you do have to kind of branch out. I started eating a lot of fish because they always had fish. You start learning how to like make things, if you have like sometimes they have like an open grill. You'll definitely develop some sort of cooking skills while you're there. But honestly, like you can't go in thinking it's going to be like a 5-star restaurant. You have to, there's feeding like a very large number of people, but when in doubt, never forget that there's a cereal bar. That was one of my like saviors. Whenever everything was gross, we always just got cereal.
Thank you. Andrew.
Another thing too is that like to be honest, like the food experience is like it kind of depends on the day of like what's good and what's not. But my friends and I really like on the weekend, if you have like the chance, like if you have restaurants surrounding your like campus, my friends and I always love just like to hop on the metro and try all these like cool restaurants within DC. And like that's like a cool way just to just see like what's like outside your campus and just try something new. And as like well as like trying like professional, like really good food.
Thank you. Kayla.
We had a couple different dining halls on campus, and to be honest, I didn't really go to them that much, even though we had unlimited swipes. Just wasn't really my thing. I didn't like a lot of the food, but I'm very picky. But when I ended up like getting my bid and rushing through at Alabama, your meal plan like totally changes, and you only get like a limited number of swipes, and you eat at your fraternity or sorority house. So for me, I was like pretty much eating at the house most of the time. But like Andrew said, on the weekends, there's always a lot of opportunity around your campus to go try all the restaurants. Like for us, we have downtown, the Strip, and there's so many different places to go. And you can use your dining dollars at that, which is really great because you're eating like better quality food, I guess. I mean, it's not that much healthier, but it's not like frozen pizza from the dining hall. So for me, I really enjoy getting to do that.
Thank you. So I'm hearing a very consistent theme here that it's very easy to spend your dining money in the collegiate setting, which for me, it's very interesting to hear that because it was very different when I went to Rutgers. You usually bought a meal plan. You can only access it 3 times a day, and that was it. Otherwise, you had to go to like the student center and like purchase something from a store. So with this theme, the next question is, how did you manage a budget and did you get a job? Go ahead, Andrew.
Within my first couple of days, my mom actually found a job for me working for housing services. And most campuses do like offer like that service that like you're basically just overseeing like people moving in and out and just like all like the college furniture that that the university owns. Like you oversee that, and it actually paid very well. And most, if not all, my spending money came from that job, so I didn't feel like that bad spending the money, like knowing that I had a job at the same time.
Thank you. Kayla.
I did not have a job. I was not emotionally ready for anything like that. But because I did not have a job, I was pretty like cognizant of how I was spending my money. And like for me, like I love Dunkin' Donuts, and we had a Dunkin' Donuts right next to our dorm. And it was just like sometimes you have to like convince yourself like you really don't need that coffee today, or like certain things where it's like you can't just be mindlessly spending. You have to be really aware of what you're spending it on, especially when you start talking about things like textbooks and like other supplies you need for classes. And if they're like big investments, and you have to be aware of where your money's going. So I definitely recommend like tracking your money. A lot of the bank apps for your debit cards, you can track your money, move your money in between different accounts. And that's what I had to do. It was like, okay, this money's going into a savings account and this one's staying in my spend.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Will.
Kind of what Kayla said, definitely checking your bank apps and not like, definitely checking your bank apps and like not just ignoring them and pretending that your problems will go away, which is what I did for a while. You actually kind of have to face the facts and like actually look at it and just see where you're at, and as far as a budget, just like I personally just didn't try and always spend a ton of money. I did have a job on campus though. I would work in the like computer labs, and I would just sit there and make sure everything went well. People were supposed to ask me questions, but no one really ever did. So I just kind of sat there and did my homework. And it was actually a really great job. But definitely be conscious of what you spend your money on. And like, I found it really easy to like Uber Eats myself food to my dorm. And that got really expensive really quickly. So I definitely kind of had to like, like check where I was at and see how much I was spending, and like, just be conscious of where I was money-wise.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kayla, as a follow-up to what you said, do any of you have advice about where to buy the textbooks or rent them, or what did you find is the most efficient way to do that?
So for me, what I did is I waited to buy anything like the first week and a half of school, and I went into the classes, and you kind of just see, because some of the professors have the book on their syllabus, but you'll walk in and they'll say, no one buy the book, I don't actually use it, like it's just there for like formality purposes. But there's some classes where you can kind of just gauge it and be like, nah, I probably won't use it. But Alabama has a great bookstore, and it has like pretty much everything in it. They have all the required class textbooks. You can find anything you need in there. It is really expensive though. They do have a renting program where you can rent textbooks. So I rented some textbooks this semester. But for me, a lot of my classes had online textbooks where it was already linked through your account. So once you signed up for the class, you already had access to the online textbook, and you paid like a flat fee. It was like $100, which is way better than paying the $400 whatever for the printed book. And then I know like Chegg and online resources you can rent off Amazon. Definitely look into all of that stuff before you say, here's my syllabus, I'm going to go buy all of my textbooks. But definitely wait before you go buy anything, because there were textbooks I literally used one time or I didn't use at all. And it was like, why did I even buy this? Like, it was a waste of money.
Caroline. Thank you, Kayla.
Kind of going off what Kayla said, do not buy your textbooks before you go to class. I bought 2 like $50 textbooks and then hated the class and ended up dropping it. And I bought them and I didn't rent them because you could only buy them. So just wait, because your professor will most likely say like, do not try to do this course without the book. And that's when like you would go to read the book. I would also recommend, another lifesaver was, you're going to get added to like your class Facebook chat. And a lot of the time there's higher level students in that class, and they will be selling the books that they use for your freshman level core classes and gen eds for really, really cheap. And I got a lot of my books off of that for like literally $12. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. And even if they're used or drawn in, like it's so worth saving the money on like an $80 textbook.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So the next question that we have is, talk a little bit about your housing and roommate experience. Did you go random or not? Good, Will. And then
So I got lucky. Penn State was notoriously bad for having like kind of not great housing until a couple of years ago, where they started renovating all the dorms. And so going into this into the fall semester, I was in a renovated dorm, which is really nice. So it was like really nice setup. I had a room with my roommate, and then the entire floor was just doubles. There were, I think, like six unisex bathrooms on the floor with showers. There was like 4 sinks in hallways. So it was a really nice setup, and I didn't have any problems with that. I went random for my roommate, and it turned out like perfect. We hit it off, and I'm actually living with him next year. So it just kind of worked out for me. I don't really have anything else to say about like that. I honestly just went completely random. I met the kid, and it just turned out to be great. And I met my 2 other roommates on my floor, actually, in the elevator on like the second day. Kind of funny how that was. But other than that, I mean, I really liked my housing, and I think that don't stress about it, because odds are that you'll be able to live with your roommate if you did go random, or you'll probably end up liking them.
Thank you. Caroline and then Kayla.
I was not as fortunate as William, and the freshman dorms at the University of Maryland are absolutely terrible. You are very lucky if you get one that has air conditioning, and the Maryland August and September is so hot. Me and my roommate actually had to sleep in the common room because it was the only room that had air conditioning. But they always say that the dorms without air conditioning are the dorms where the people are the closest, because you're forced to suffer together. If you don't have air conditioning, please bring fans. Like, you will be so grateful that you brought a fan. Even when it gets cold out, like, I still keep my fan on because it's like general heating, so they just make it so hot. And my roommate and I actually started chatting because we both weren't in any like living learning communities or freshman connection, which is like another Maryland thing. And honestly, like, there's a lot, like, I'm very grateful. My roommate and I are best friends. We're living together in an apartment next year, but there's a lot of people who I know who went random and were so happy. Like, living together obviously isn't always going to like be kumbaya or whatever, but like, set ground rules, like, no, you know, like, have things that they can touch, can't touch, and you should be fine.
Thank you. Kayla.
So I was very fortunate, and I will say that if you do go to Alabama, you're very spoiled dorm-wise. I lived in a suite-style dorm with 3 other girls. So we had a kitchenette, a living room, 2 bathrooms, and we all had our own bedrooms. So it was kind of like a mini apartment, and it's very popular on campus. They're all renovated. Yeah, Alabama is just a whole nother world when it comes to dorms. But so I was very fortunate in that retrospect, and I loved having my own room. It was really nice. I didn't really have to worry about besides sharing the bathroom with my one other roommate, it wasn't really a problem. We did have some issues like who has to clean the dishes or like who has to vacuum, certain stuff like that. But that kind of happens in every roommate situation. You kind of just have to work it out. I didn't go random. I met my roommates on like an Instagram freshman page last year, and we all just decided to start talking, and then we all hit it off, so we roomed together. And I didn't end up becoming like best friends with my roommates, but we are all close. One of my roommates actually transferred out, so we got a new one. So we had a little bit of change, but they are people I can turn to, and I'm friends with them. We're just not best friends. But I would recommend that if you're like stressed about not finding a roommate, like, oh my gosh, I can't find a roommate anywhere, like, just go random. Like, a bunch of girls in my sorority went random with all of their roommates, and they ended up becoming great friends. And I just recommend that. Like, that's what college is about, like, meeting new people, branching out. I just don't think like living with someone you went to high school with or someone you've known since birth or even a mutual friend is like always the best decision, because you never know what that unknown could be. So that's what I recommend.
Thank you. Andrew.
I was also fortunate that I got one of the better freshman housing. Basically, in the middle of our campus, it's like, it legit looks like a neighborhood, and like every house has like, I would say like 25-ish rooms. doubles, and I chose to go random. And having like a random roommate, like at the beginning, I'm like this is like such a smart decision. Like I'm like it's like an instant friend that you can make. But then leading up to it, I was so nervous about it. And then I was very fortunate enough that like I also like hit it off like very quickly with him. I am moving. I'm living with him again next year. And then I think one of the hardships about it though was it was like a Jack and Jill style bathroom, and we shared it with like people like right by us. And it was kind of tough because as freshmen, I don't know if like all you guys have this, but like all the freshmen have like these two classes, and it's like the same time area. And these two other kids just like they went in the bathroom for forever, and they only let us have like 5 minutes to get ready for a couple mornings. It definitely wasn't the best experience, but that's a bit like out of like your range. Just have to be aware of that.
Thank you. Madison.
So going to Rutgers, I am fortunate enough to sometimes be able to come home on the weekends, which I personally like doing. And it was a weekend in the winter, I came home and there just so happened to have been a water pipe leak in my building. And so that led to a little bit of a flood in our floor and everything. So I just had a piece of advice to kind of always keep your room a little clean. I know you might think that it's like your personal space, but you never know who's going to go in there, because there did happen to be staff in everybody's rooms trying to pick up and clean this flood. So it happens.
Thank you. Anyone else on this topic? Okay. Are college professors approachable? Andrew.
I was very fortunate, like again, that like all of my professors I had, that I think they're very appreciative of too, that like for some of my larger classes, they're very appreciative to have a student reach out to them and meet with them. I think they're very approachable if like you're like good with time management, because like you can't really email them like the day before an exam and ask like kind of like a last minute study session. It's more of like if you just like email them a week in advance and schedule a time, they make it very approachable, and they go with your schedule. And in the end, it's like a win-win for both of you.
Thank you, Andrew. Will, we're going to get to you in 1 second, but I just want to talk a little bit about something about Andrew just said. That is something that as a counselor, like I talk to my students, I say, don't drop things on your teachers last second. And if you're going to college, they just won't put up with it, right? If you are being courteous and respectful of their time, you should see a similar treatment in return. What I found interesting in my experience, the difference between high school versus college was, the teachers might get aggravated with you, but they're still going to work with you. Some professors just simply won't work with you if you're not kind of respecting their time, et cetera. So thank you for that. Will.
I definitely found that if you work with the professor there, they will work with you. I remember one specific instance. I emailed to talk with one of my TAs about a grade I got on an assignment I submitted. I got an 80, and I didn't understand the points I had gotten wrong on it. So after maybe a half-hour meeting with my TA, she explained to me what I gotten wrong and how I could fix it. And then she boosted the grade on the assignment by 10 points. She didn't need to do that, but I found it to be kind of a common theme when talking to your professors. Definitely, if like you work with them, you're respectful, and you go out of your way to show effort and put effort in the class, they will reciprocate that, and I think that's a really important lesson.
Excellent, thank you, Will. Andrew.
I think another thing is that the professors are super approachable, and it's not as much of a power hierarchy as in high school. I think in college it's a bit, depending on the professor, of course, but in at least the small classes, it's a bit more like you're kind of just like more of their friend, because a lot of the classes are conversation based. So like you're contributing with them. And I know a few of my professors, we got lunch with them every Friday. And it was kind of like a very friendly, like a great relationship between us.
Thank you, Andrew. Caroline, and then Kayla.
One of my professors had an assignment where he wanted to get to know us and talk a little bit about our history, like in field study. And they really do care about you. He actually reached out to me and got me in contact with one of his former students who was a manager of a broadcaster on the news who I used to be in contact with. So I would say respect your professors also, because you never know who they're connected to and how much they can help you out in your professional career.
Thank you. Kayla.
So for me, like most of my professors were pretty laid back and they do definitely really want to help you. But that being said, you have to be like responsible with your assignments and making sure you're staying up to date and just having open communication. But I found for most of my professors weren't actually like, they were like an adjunct professor. So they were also like working on their degree at the same time. So they're also a student too, which was kind of cool because you're both still working, like they're working towards their PhD and like you're working towards your undergraduate. So it kind of worked out for me. And like I'm close with a couple of my professors, and obviously I'm a media major, so they have a lot of connections to people in the broadcast environment and news writing. And my one professor is the professor that recommended me to write for the student paper. So that's a big deal, like building the connections with all of your professors. I also want to say you should probably, like Will was saying before, keep on top of your grades. Like I think in high school you kind of forget, like, yeah, you check when assignments get posted, but you're not really checking like the full point scale or stuff like that. In college, you have to remember your professors are responsible for way more students' grades than your teachers at North are. So like I've had it a couple times where your professors like they accidentally slip up and they put in the wrong grade. Like my one TA, she put in the wrong grade and I emailed her about it. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, totally an accident. Like I accidentally put in the grade of the person who fell under you instead of, just one spot wrong." So just definitely like staying on top of that and having open communication, because they're bound to make mistakes too. But as long as you're able to communicate with them, like they're very laid back and chill.
Thank you. Andrew.
Kind of like bouncing off what Kayla said, I actually had professors that in high school, you might be at of a border of like an A minus in that weird range. But I literally have I had two professors that like you didn't get like your grade until like the day or two like after the final. It's like you kind of have to like kind of like back to like the last question about communication between your professors. It's just like you really want to be on top of your grades in that aspect, because like some professors you will not get your grade until like the very end.
Thank you, Andrew. Anyone else? Okay. And I'm skipping around here from the order that was sent out to you originally, because we are now at about an hour. So question number 20, COVID-19 response. What has your spring semester looked like? This may be a reality for some of our students in the fall. So what was the spring semester look like once the change occurred? Will and then Kayla.
So I was actually on spring break when we announced that we were going to go online. And that was kind of frustrating in a sense, because I didn't bring any of the clothes and stuff that I needed from Penn State. I didn't grab a lot of my belongings because I just thought I was going to be gone for a week. But I guess the response was pretty much like that we were going online. It was a typical like this, a Zoom with my like in my classes. I think I had 3 classes that I had to, be in a Zoom meeting as if I was in class. A couple others, I had one online class that didn't change, and then another class where she just put assignments that we would have to complete. But definitely, it was weird. Penn State made everything pass fail. So if you got above a C in classes that you needed for your major, you could just pass and it wouldn't affect your GPA at all, which was really, really nice, and it took a big burden off of me, and I know a lot of my other like classmates and stuff. So that was kind of what Penn State did. They put summer online, and they don't know what we're going to do for fall yet. So who knows? Maybe Zoom University for the fall semester.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kayla.
So I was in the airport flying home for spring break when I found out we were going online, and I was like, dang, I kind of like Will, I had like nothing packed. But it wasn't that bad. I only had like 4.5 weeks left of school, counting my finals once we went online. And I didn't have any like classes that were on Zoom like what we're doing now. Mine were all kind of just, they posted the assignments and it's due by 11:59 that day. So it kind of was very like make your own schedule, like whenever you want to wake up and do your homework was kind of what I did. And it wasn't that bad. All my finals were online, obviously. And I think most of them were like a shortened down version of what they were supposed to be. But Alabama is adamant about going back for fall, but I guess we'll see what happens. We might be back online, but they're very adamant on coming back in person.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Another question that we have here is how hard do you have to study? Go ahead, Caroline.
I would say that it really depends on your major. If you're a STEM major, I wish you well. I know all of my friends who are STEM majors are up in the library in study corrals for like hours, like pulling all-nighters, but that's just them. Maybe you're a better studier than them. I'm a communications major, so I probably study the same amount that I did in high school, which was not that much, but like, the professors are very good about posting study material and like posting like what you need to know, and there's so many ways to get a hold of other study materials. Like if you're in Greek life, they have a locker where you can see old exams and quizzes and stuff. Just like be aware of what you don't know and never be afraid to go into office hours, because office hours are always such a big help when you're studying.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Thomas.
So I'm a computer science major, and I have a fair amount of work to do between exams and stuff like that. But as long as you're on top of it and you're spending some time throughout the semester and not just waiting until the last week or something, you're generally, at least in my experience, not gonna have too many problems with, like I never had to spend all night in the library or something like that. If you study like 30 minutes, 45 minutes every day, you'll be pretty set up for the times when you actually need to use it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Madison.
For a couple of my intro classes, I took like macro and micro this past semesters, and they didn't have a lot of homework or classwork or anything like that. So it was just really key that you kept up with your reading of the textbook and attending lectures, even if they weren't mandatory, because when you comes around to midterms and finals, you don't want to get stuck not having been kept up with it just because there wasn't any homework testing you on it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Kayla.
I would say I think it's like very individually based on how much you study. Like if you're like a strong student at North right now and like you manage well and study well, you really shouldn't have a problem wherever you go if you have good study skills. But if you are someone that struggles a little bit more right now in high school, then I can definitely say going into college, it's probably not going to get any easier for you. So you might have to like buckle down and really focus on your study skills and time management and talking with your professors. But for me personally, like I'm a communications major and I studied less this year than I think I did in like all 4 years of high school. But it's also very dependent on like what classes you're taking. Like a lot of my classes are for like media history. So it's not like it's chemistry or any math type stuff. So it just really depends on your class schedule and your own study skills as a person.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we have a few more questions. Rushing, Greek life, what to do? Why or why not did you decide to choose to join a fraternity or sorority? Will and then Caroline.
I chose to rush fraternity because one, I wanted the connections. There's a lot of personal development and just business connections that you can make. Another reason is my brother actually attended Penn State, and I rushed his fraternity. Probably one of the main reasons why I did that was I still see to this day that he is best friends with all his frat brothers, and that was something I really wanted, was to have lifelong friends like that. So that was another reason. And I mean, it's just a lot of fun to hang out with a whole bunch of guys that you're really close with, and have that sort of brotherhood. So that's why I did it, and it's been great so far.
Thank you. Caroline.
When I was in high school, I never ever thought that I would join a sorority. And then once I got to college, University of Maryland is a pretty large school. And I think one of the great things about Greek life is that it makes a really big school feel small. You always have people to go to and stuff like that. It's also a really, really easy way to get involved in philanthropy and service work. And sorority and fraternities also give you great connections to alumni and people like that. So if you're going through Rush, they always say this: trust the process. You will end up where you are supposed to be. My friend dropped out of rushing and still winded up in my sorority. So just trust the process and just go with the flow.
Thank you. Kayla.
So obviously I go to the largest Greek school in the country, which is really overwhelming. And I was terrified when I got down there. I did not want to rush. And all of my roommates were like, you should just give it a shot because you don't have to go through with it. You can drop before you even take a bid. Like, you don't have to accept your bid. So I was like, okay. So I rushed. We have 17 sororities and 33 fraternities. And it's a lot. There's a lot going on. And it's really overwhelming to try and make a choice about where you think you want to be. But I definitely say, like, if you're tempted to try and rush or you're not really sure, just go and do it, because you can always have the option to drop your bid or not go through the rush process completely, but at least you get to try it and dip your toes in the water. I will say at Alabama, I know some people talk about like, oh, how did you pick your fraternity or how did you pick your sorority? You don't get to pick your frat or your sorority at Alabama. They kind of pick you. It's more like you go through the rush process, and they are like feeling you out, you're feeling them out, and it's just whatever houses you get invited back to. But if any of the senior class needs like any rush advice, I can give that to you. Like, you can contact me on your own, because there's so much that goes into sorority rush in general. That is totally a whole different discussion.
Thank you, Kayla. Go ahead, Andrew.
So it seems I'm in the minority here of not being in Greek life. At Colgate, we do the rush process sophomore, fall. So that's kind of nice because it's not like a freshman year, like it's not too stressful there. But I'm on the rugby team and have a lot of friends there. So I kind of thought like that was a lot of where my time went, and so I didn't really feel like I needed to. But a lot of my friends did, and they enjoyed it. Some other friends did not. It's kind of an opt-in, opt-out thing at Colgate, which I think is the best way of doing it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. At this point, I mean, we've covered most of the questions that we have today. I'd just like to put it out there. Were there any topics that we did not ask about that you feel our seniors should kind of be aware of? All right, Andrew.
I definitely think in college how there are so many clubs offered at North, but like there are even more offered in college, and is even like though there's more in college, like there's always a club that, like they'll always like fit for each person, regardless of their interests or anything, or even like if they're a little bit interested. It just like there's always a club or some activity for everyone, regardless of a sport, like interest, anything.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, college is mainly about your academics, but do not stress yourself out so much. Go out, go to a party, enjoy yourself, find a balance. It doesn't always have to be academics all the time. Hang out with friends, and especially when you're a freshman in a dorm room, leave your door open for at least like the first week of college. You will meet so many people. I met like all of my college roommates that way.
Thank you. Go ahead, Thomas.
Caroline said this a little bit, but it's really important. First couple of weeks, it might be hard for some people But really just try and be as social as possible and talk to everybody you meet. Keep an open mind on who you might be friends with and who you might like. Because those first couple of weeks are when you're meeting a bunch of people who hopefully have that same mindset, and where you can build a lot of new friendships, and because you don't know anybody, so you might as well.
Will.
That's definitely one thing I want to encourage is being social, and not like, kind of shying away from like, leaving your door open or meeting new people on your floor, because it certainly worked out really well for me. And another thing is that don't let, like, when you're actually at school, don't let other people's perceptions of what they do at school and social media kind of like affect, or like, that let you think about, how your college experience is, because everyone's is unique. Everyone's is different. Don't let that overwhelm you. Like, just be happy with where you're at, and, not worry about what other people are doing, and focus on yourself.
Thank you. Kayla.
I'm gonna bounce off what Will said and just think like, just be positive about your experience. I know for the seniors this year, it's kind of hard because you might be unsure of where you're going because of the COVID outbreak, but just keep a positive outlook and just put your best foot forward, because it might turn into something like super amazing that you never thought about. And also, like what Will said, don't like look about what everyone else is doing on social media. Like, everyone is trying to present their most perfected life on that, and it's like, I know for me it was like seeing all these girls like going out every weekend, like meeting all these new people, and it was like my freshman year, like my first semester was not like that at all, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I felt kind of like upset about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on, like why am I not doing what everyone else is doing? But just like stick through with it and like stay positive and just know that it will get better. Like wherever you're at, it will get so much better.
Anyone else? Okay. So this has been a great discussion. I want to, Mr. Squarsha, do you have anything that you would like to kind of ask of the group before we conclude this evening?
I just want to, I'd like to add on to what Kayla said about, if you do find yourself in a difficult situation, know that every campus has support staff. So, a lot of our seniors may have had some person at home, maybe that was their go-to person. They're going to be away from them when they go onto campus. Know that there are counseling services available, there are health services available, and make sure you know where to access them on the campus, because as a freshman, sometimes it can be overwhelming and you might not get the best advice from people in your dorm, and you may have to actually go to somebody professional that can really help you through a situation, especially if you're halfway across the country. So make sure you know what those resources are and access them when you need them.
Thank you, Mr. Squarsha. I just want to wrap up by saying thank you to all of our panelists. You have provided great information for our seniors and for any other students that choose to watch this session today. This was put on by the guidance department and with the support, and a lot of the organization and a lot of the legwork was done by the Education Foundation. So I want to say thank you and kind of give them, like I guess, a quick shout out for their participation in making this happen. At this time, I'm going to conclude the meeting, and thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.